dream big, but have some building blocks as to how you're going to get there. If this pitch was being made to you, would you as an investor be interested in investing in it or not? That's the first question, first litmus test an entrepreneur must pass. This is what countries like Israel have done incredibly. They celebrate their failures, and Silicon Valley has done this, right? Which is why you see the kind of innovation and the kind of growth happening. The people who failed in 3 or 4 entrepreneurial ventures are considered like superstars. When Tendulkar talks about the fear of failure, right? Kohli talks about the fear of failure. These are achievers who score hundreds, yet they talk about the fear of failure. So everyone has it. You've just got to make yourself strong enough to believe that you can do it. And you've got to believe that dream you're chasing is worth it. Whatever goes wrong in your life or in your company or in your business, you've got to say it's all my fault. Because if you don't say that, then you're allocating the responsibility and the power to correct that to somebody else.
For the future generation, we are going to do a big deal of favor.
I have traveled to more than 20 countries across 4 continents in the world.
Hello everybody, welcome to Entrepreneurship Simplified, and this show is going to introduce you to those brilliant ideas and the biggest entrepreneurs who will help you simplify entrepreneurship through real life situations, challenges, failures and successes, so that you don't need to repeat the same mistakes. Rather focus on your growth to realize the dream of becoming an entrepreneur much faster. And this show is being done in association with Young Indians. Young Indians is a movement of Indian youth to converge, lead, co-create and influence India's future. YI is playing a proactive role in India's development process. If you want to actually take part of India's growth and be successful, YI is a place to be. Bear in mind, this show has no script. Everything you hear on the show is heart to heart. And today's guest is an industry leader from calcinating industry. He has recently been honored by the World Economic Forum as only among 4 Indians to be part of its Young Global Leaders. He has also had the privilege of representing India at the G20 Young Entrepreneurs Alliance summits held in Australia, Turkey and Germany. India Carbon Limited has been serving the nation's aluminium, steel and other carbon consuming industries for over 50 years. ICL has set up Asia's first calcination plant at Guwahati in 1962. Right from its inception itself, it has also been in technical and financial collaboration with Oxbow USA World Leaders in Calcined Petroleum Coke field. He has contributed in various roles in CII Young Indians, is an inspiration among the peers and also Yuva, and also served as a national chairman. Help me to welcome Shaurya Veer Himatsingka, Chief Executive Officer and Whole-time Director for India Carbon Limited. Hi Shaurya, how are you doing?
Hey Rajesh, thank you so much for the wonderful introduction. Great being here.
So, let me ask, right? When you are actually kind of into a public limited company, and it's a very common question that most of the experienced entrepreneurs ask, how different it is when you're actually operating a private limited company to a public limited company.
So Rajesh, if you ask me very honestly, there should be very little difference because it's only the structure which changes beyond a point. I would say it's the governance structure, which is obviously you have more formalities to furnish in a public company. But I think being a listed company, a public company, it just adds more systems and protocols, which I think is great for the business. I think more and more private companies, they can stay private, but they should try and follow the best practices of listed companies, because it's more governance, more structure, more reporting, it gives more credence to a board. And it's just puts in systems and processes. The logic is simple. Why the government asks for these additional compliances requirements is to protect the shareholder. And at the end of the day, even a promoter of a private company is a shareholder. So, of course, at times it does become tedious. There are additional requirements, additional costs associated. So I'm not saying every single company starting off needs to be a listed company or a public company, but there really is no difference. At the end of the day, the business is the core. So you've got to do that well. It's just governance and reporting, which listed companies require more of.
Let me bring this, into the entrepreneurship level. Now, you have been an entrepreneur for a quite long time. And if I ask you, what is, the definition of entrepreneurship for you? Can you please share?
It's a great question, Rajesh, because I think entrepreneurship is, it's confusing, right? Is only someone who starts a new business an entrepreneur? And I would say no. Today, Mukesh Ambani was an entrepreneur before he started Reliance Jio, right? Because he catapulted what he was doing beforehand. He catapulted his oil and gas empire into something 10x of what his father created and when his father passed on. So I think an entrepreneur is someone who takes risks, who puts his neck on the line, his money on the line, and creates something as an entrepreneur.
When you're talking about the risk, are we really talking about risk of facing the failure or risk of losing the money, or actually kind of it's a combination of everything?
Rajesh, it's an absolute combination, and we've all studied, right, in school, in college, risk and reward, right? There is no returns without risk. Today, if you invest in the debt market, if you invest in liquid funds, right, which are the safest funds to invest in today's India, you get a 3.5-4% return. You invest in a bank FD, in the SBI, you'll get 4.5-5% return. If you want to invest in the equity markets, you might in 5-10 years make a compounded return of 15%. But that return is not free. That return comes with a substantial amount of risk, because there could be a stage 2 years down the line when your capital is not just 5% up on year, but it's 20% down from the initial amount. So that volatility, that risk, that uncertainty is the price you pay. You have to pay, and I have this very interesting conversation with Morgan Housel, who's a very successful financial writer, who said that don't consider this price to pay as a fine. This is not a fine. This is a feast. When you go to a restaurant, you buy a great meal, you pay amount, right? That's the feast you pay to eat that great pizza or eat that great meal. Similarly, for higher returns in life, you've got to pay a fee. Of course, it's a lot more painful if someone loses their shirt off their back in an entrepreneurial venture. So people should try and see how they can balance things out. But otherwise, in life, to make great returns, you've got to take proportionate risks.
Absolutely. I can't agree more. And actually, it is so clearly evident that only people who took the risk and actually went forward are the only most successful people across the world. That is, whether they actually started before entering into that CEO position or probably, after, it doesn't matter. As long as they continue to take that risk, of course, it's a calculated risk, not really just kind of going blind with it. But I want to, bring very important aspect, that you mentioned right now. You mentioned about another aspect is also risk of fear, because if you see the current generation and, they're fearless, but then they go forward and they just kind of one failure, they're gone, because they say, okay, I'm low on confidence, or, they just kind of have so many things to put up, but it is so quick reaction. And you have been in business for more than 50 years. What is your suggestion in really kind of, how you actually face the risk of failure and then, recorrect the organization or anything that has to be recorrected?
So Rajesh, again, this is a question for the ages, right? And people who can answer this question and believe in the answers are going to be the winners of life. And when I say this, it's learning for me as well every day. We all struggle with the fear of failure. I don't think there's anybody, Tendulkar talks about the fear of failure, right? Kohli talks about the fear of failure. These are achievers who score hundreds, yet they talk about the fear of failure. So everyone has it. You've just got to make yourself strong enough to believe that you can do it. And you've got to believe that dream you're chasing is worth it. And of course, as a culture, I think we as a nation, as a culture, we have to celebrate failure more. This is what countries like Israel have done incredibly. They celebrate their failures, and Silicon Valley has done this, right? Which is why you see the kind of innovation and the kind of growth happening. That people who failed in 3 or 4 entrepreneurial ventures are considered like superstars. When investors come, they actually see it as a badge of honor. That, okay, you failed 4 times, so you really must be knowing now what not to do. And they don't just say it in words, they mean it. So of course, I think some part of it is cultural. And the earlier you can get, the ones who your immediate peer network, your family, your support structure rallying behind you, the better. But at the end of the day, there's nobody who's backing you. You've got to have that belief in yourself, that chutzpah, that passion, that drive, that I am going to do it. And there's nobody else who can do it for you. And, again, whilst I say this is equally applicable to me, because I also every single day, run with the same questions, right? That which venture should one do? Which venture should one not do? Where do you invest time? Do you keep growing current businesses? Do you do new businesses? How much of a risk do you take? So, whilst I'm saying this in words, it's a learning it's a lesson which I have to myself follow every single day and get better at.
If somebody is really, I also know that you're into investment into the, new companies coming in and new technologies. If somebody is starting, right now we are talking about somebody who is just coming out of the college and then they want to start. what kind of precautions or what kind of thinking process they should throw before they actually kind of go ahead and put their money or start their journey as an entrepreneur?
So Rajesh, there is no free lunch in the world, right? And passion and energy, of course, is probably the greatest tool one can have. Passion, attitude, energy. But you've got to have a plan. You've got to know what you're doing. You've got to have visibility. You've got to have clarity. You've got to put yourself in somebody else's shoes and say, today, if I want to raise 1 crore rupees for my venture, if I had 5 crore rupees in my bank, would I give somebody 1 crore rupees or not? And that's the question you've got to ask yourself very honestly. Today, if someone comes to me and says, oh, I'm very passionate, give me money. That's not good enough. You've got to know what you're doing. You've got to have your basic market analysis done, your use case scenarios done. You've got to have that practicality. And you've got to have that belief, and you've got to bite what you can chew or what you are able to chew with your network. Because tomorrow, if suddenly again, if I have 10 rupees in my pocket and I want to set up a 1 million ton steel plant, it's great to dream, but that might not be a practical or realistic dream for someone to chase. So, it's practicality mixed with enterprise, which is important. I just want to clarify one thing. I'm not talking about being less ambitious. What I'm saying, for example, if you see today's majority successful startups, I work with the startup sector actively. We invest in technology companies in India and Indonesia. It's almost a rule now that very few investors, if any, invest in companies where there's a single promoter. It's typically teams of 4 or 5 people who come together. And the question is why? Because again, the investor knows that to run a business successfully, one guy is never just enough. So even that's why I'm saying, don't bite more than you can chew. If you want to build something great, start with the right team. You need to have a finance guy, you need to have an operations guy, you need to have somebody who understands technology. So I'm saying you need to have all those things in place. It's not about just money. Dream big, but have some building blocks as to how you're going to get there. Because if you can make a credible pitch, you've again got to ask yourself that if this pitch was being made to you, would you as an investor be interested in investing in it or not? That's the first question, first litmus test an entrepreneur must pass.
When we are looking into it, the main thing is with one person, volatility is very high. Can you imagine one guy, he kind of, he got a breakup, okay? And then that's it. The company is gone. I mean, it is nowhere. Where did he go? He went up to Himalayas. And then he said, I'm not going to come back at least he did not even say when he's going to come back. But so many people's money is already there because it's part of the angel investment. Allow me to ask, right? When these guys are going forward, I just want to really bring in one of the very, very important sessions you gave it in the last conference about responsibility, right? What is the importance of taking one's responsibility, especially, as a leader of the company in terms of the failure, when a lot of decisions are taken every day as an entrepreneur in our lives, but what is the importance of, taking responsibility, especially in the times of failure?
Rajesh, I read this in a book somewhere, and it just moved me. It was a quote, and this is something I try and follow truly in my life. And it said that to be a leader, one lesson is it's all my fault. And I just love that. It said that whatever goes wrong in your life or in your company or in your business, you've got to say it's all my fault. Because if you don't say that, then you're allocating the responsibility and the power to correct that to somebody else. So you've got to say that it's all my fault, because when you say that, then you're the only one who can fix it. And if you don't say that, you're never going to be able to fix it.
I think it's not just about company, like you said, even in our individual lives, it makes such a huge difference when we say it's all my fault, because the mind will start actually kind of going into more possibilities. How do I correct it?
No, I'm saying the second you outsource the problem to somebody else, and the second you say, I couldn't do it, or we had a bad year because of the weather. So you're saying that, that means whenever the weather goes bad, you're going to be in shit street, which is not good. You've got to say, no, the weather was bad. It was my fault that I didn't predict it. It was my fault that I didn't factor for it. My fault that I didn't build enough safety around it. And that's why we suffered. So that's what I'm coming to.
Yeah, I totally see that. But, I want to ask this, right? As an industry, when for the industry, actually, COVID has really had a massive impact. But I know that things are going to come back. If I may ask, is there any scope in terms of technology or, kind of entry barriers if some of the young guys want to get into the industry? What is the scope for the technology or probably any entry barriers?
Rajesh, the scope is endless, right? COVID has shown it, right? Today, truly, what can we not do? And the world of technology has opened up a world which our father generation could never fathom. I mean, today there's a solution for everything. Zoom has overnight become a, I think, $150, $200 billion company. So it's just about solutions. You got to figure out someone's need, right? And everything doesn't have to be $1 billion, frankly. Every solution doesn't have to be a breakthrough technology. There are some which are breakthrough technologies, right? But if you don't have a breakthrough idea which is going to change the world's technological landscape, doesn't matter. There are n number of things which can be done better. You've got to ask yourself, what's the need I'm solving? Solve a need. And if you're solving a need, you will create value. So there is a restaurant in a location which doesn't have one, good food, a particular cuisine which is not there in your city, something as simple as that. I mean, there's nothing simple, nothing complicated, right? Very fun, very honestly in life. Nothing is too easy and nothing is too difficult for those who want to do it. So it's just about meeting a need. Identify a need and solve it. And if you're solving someone's need, you're going to create value, you're going to make money.
I'm just going slightly on the other side of it, where you are into so many businesses and you have a family. And this is one of the most asked questions to me. Is it really fun being in entrepreneurship, or probably you will end up actually losing your or compromising your family life?
No. So again, this is a personal call, Rajesh. This is a very personal call. I guess it's like someone who studies very hard, a student who studies very hard, right? If you want to come first in class, you want to be in the first division, you've got to give that extra hours, right? I mean, you can probably get pass marks by studying 4 hours a day. And to come first, you probably need to give 10 hours a day. Entrepreneurship is very often a 24/7 exercise. If you don't have it in you to handle that pressure, then it probably isn't for you, because it's not like you can just take off when you want. It's not a 9-to-5 role, but the rewards for those who want to chase it are incredible. So no denying that it is a tough road at times. It's got its ups and downs, but it's incredibly rewarding. And if you do it right, I think it's something which people must take up, must try in their lives. I think it's incredibly rewarding. For me, it's something I don't see if I could live in any other way personally. So yeah, I can't deny it's tough, but achieving anything in life is tough. Even being a great professional, right, is not easy. Today, if you're a doctor or if you're a top CEO, I don't think their lives are easy, right? They're working 24/7, they're burning the midnight oil, because to get anywhere in life, just like a student or a sportsman, if you want to achieve anything in life, again, there's no return without investment. There's no return without risk. There's no return without investment.
Yeah. True. I mean, I've seen you actually kind of energy that you always drive in whichever conference, whichever meeting that you are into. And probably, is that having any connection with the kind of acquisitions that you do and also make them really profitable? Or is there any other secret?
No, I don't think there's a secret. I think we are learning every day. We make lots of mistakes as well in our journey. Every day we learn something new. I just believe, right, that, I think we're blessed to have the lives we do. And it's great to be happy and passionate every day of your life. So whether it's being with your children, being with your family, watching a movie, having a good time, or working, I think you've really got to bring passion to the table. And again, I say this, right, today, which person who's achieving anything in life, which Ranji Trophy cricketer, which state level badminton player is not, giving it their all. If you want to be good at anything, even to play in your class team or a school team, right, you've got to give in the extra hours and make the effort, right? So nothing comes easy. So it's just about that, you've got to do it with passion, got to do it with the right attitude. And if you do it, I think results will come. When
companies wants to acquire another company, it's generally a big gray area, especially, only last few years we have seen, probably 5 years to, a decade is when we have seen in India, companies taking over other companies. So is there any specific process or precaution that you suggest if somebody is going to acquire another company?
Rajesh, definitely. Acquisitions, I think people take them fairly lightly a lot of times, but it's really something important to deep dive into. Of course, I think financial diligence, legal diligence, governance diligence, these are all very, very important aspects, every aspect, which is something which everyone would do when doing a serious acquisition. But I think also, understanding the culture is a very, very important aspect, and not taking it lightly, especially when you're doing acquisitions in different states or different countries, even more so, right? There's a huge cultural aspect which you've got to factor in, and you've got to keep that in mind, because very often I think that's something which we don't look at. We'll do all the other diligences, but not that part. So I think that's a very, very thing. The culture of a company, the culture of your organization existing, how you're going to handle it, who's going to lead it, what kind of team, really having a proper roadmap, proper understanding, the country, the state you're going to, how does that work? How will you be accepted there? What are the challenges there? I think the more people can address that and be mindful of that, the more likelihood the acquisition will be successful. And otherwise, there will be more areas which could spring unpleasant surprises and derail the acquisition.
Yeah, I totally agree on that. And before we really conclude this very interesting conversation, is there any last advice you have for the next generation who would like to be pursuing the entrepreneurship as their career?
So this is a maybe cliche advice which I'm going to say, but it's also again applicable to me, because every day we, like I said, have the same challenges of what more to do or how much to do, and whether you take bigger bets or bigger risks. So we only live once, right? I'm not saying that one should bet their house. I would never advocate somebody betting their house to start a business. I would not take those risks myself. But ask yourself, what are you willing to lose in terms of time, effort, energy, and money? And would you rather have like they say, right, it's better to have loved and lost than not to have loved at all. So I'm saying similarly, right, you've got to ask yourself that would you 20 years later, would you rather regret losing that 1 lakh, 5 lakh, 10 lakh, 20 lakhs or more rupees? Would you rather regret that? Or would you regret that, oh my God, I never did that, so I never chased my dream, I never knew what could have been? So it's that advice, I think, which you've got to ask yourself, that don't bet your house, don't bet your family silver, don't bet your life away on something if you're not completely committed or obsessed with it. But otherwise, give it a shot. Take a commensurate risk, take baby steps, take small steps, but take steps for sure.
So that's the $1 million message. Thank you, Shaurya, for sharing all your real life experiences and also all your lessons from your entrepreneurial journey. And you audience, if you have not yet subscribed, make sure to hit that subscribe button and also share with every single person out there where this message can make an impact in their life. But for now, me and Shaurya says big thanks to you. And also, I'm going to see you in the next episode with another amazing entrepreneur. But till then, thank you so much and bye-bye.